218 pounds, he is the great Greg Gagne.
What's up, everybody? This is Dominic D'Angelo of OneTrueSport.com, also of SEScoops.com, have free shows as well, and the FourHorsemenNetwork.com. And we are live with Greg Gagne, Magnum TA. It's Straight Talk with the Boss, and I am happy to have both guys with me here. Greg, Magnum, how you guys doing this fine Wednesday before 4th of July?
Pretty good. Don't you always have the two of us with you?
Always, and that's what's great about it.
Well, that opening, I thought maybe you're dropping me off after
Nope.
some of my comments in the last couple of weeks.
We are getting close to getting Jim Brunzell, though. We'll do a hot tag to Jim, see what happens.
Well, I've been searching for superstar Billy Graham all week.
Yeah, have you found him yet?
Haven't found him yet.
And then, I'm not even going to say nothing because it's all going to be bad.
Jump in there, help.
No. I can get famous for all the wrong reasons, as an old friend of mine used to say.
Well, guys, we are live. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. Feel free to use the super chat. Those go to the front of the line. We also keep tabs for our members, our One True Sport members, if they ask a question, and they also get a priority first. But yes, super chats, and feel free to join One True Sport. We got several tiers on here. That you can episodes early. You can get extra added content moving forward and stuff like that. Just hit the join button down below if you're on TrueSportTV.com channel. So take a look-see there. But guys, we got a good episode here. Maybe we'll actually talk about Andre the Giant this week.
Who?
You know. I hope you guys remember. It's been on the agenda for a while. So, but I did. Greg, you mentioned you caught up on a little bit of WWE when we started off.
Yeah, I was watching it last week, and something came up. I had to shut it off, so I just missed the part where they got slammed Paul Heyman on the desk outside. Oh my God, what a horrible bump he took! Yeah. I'm sure he got racked up, but it'll be interesting. What do you think's going to happen when Roman Reigns comes back?
Magnum, what do you think?
I think the Beast Incarnate is going to come back, and I think him and Roman Reigns are going to stomp a mud hole from here to Kalamazoo and back with all of them boys. It's going to be good.
Wow! So you think you don't going to bring in Brock?
You don't think Reigns will get upset that what they did to Paul and?
No, I think him and Brock are going to come back and stomp everybody in sight that's done the whole deal, because
him and who?
Brock Lesnar. I think Brock Lesnar is going to come back to help defend Paul Heyman against those dastardly guys.
They are Paul Heyman guys, that's for sure. I know Brock was mired in that controversy and stuff with McMahon, so they have been. I mean, previous rumors too were that maybe that they were trying to get him back in the fold of things, but it'll be. Yeah,
that's the strong rumor. I mean, he's got to be part of the equation, because that's just a foregone conclusion. But it was a great angle, Paul. I was texting him on X. I mean, he should get an Academy Award. I mean, he is so good. Rumor has it he stayed up all night long, so he had that terrible, disheveled, stubbly beard, eyes red as they could possibly be. I mean, he looked the part of a distressed man.
He really did.
That's some method acting right there, I tell you that.
Kind of what I look like every Friday about 5 o'clock,
or right before we record here. Yeah. Knowing you got to hop on with Greg up there.
We used to look like that as soon as the matches were over.
Oh no, I looked great right after the matches. It was that next morning when I was getting on that plane and I'd had about 2 hours of sleep that my eyes were, about the size of a dot. Yeah.
You're just
did you guys? You did a lot of driving down there, didn't you?
No, I slept on airplanes and cabs. I think from 80 all the way through 85 and 86, because I didn't sleep at night because you didn't want to miss anything. Yeah. And then we'd get on a plane at 6 the next morning typically and fly somewhere, and I'd sleep all the way there get in the cab, sleep to the building, take a nap when I got to the building. I had to get ready
I mean,
to come back
in the
alive.
Charlotte area, didn't you have to drive to all those places to?
No,
No, really.
no, man. I knew people.
He
I
was
knew people that
not
knew
low
people. Yeah, you
Christ,
did that driving thing up there in that great wrestling, technical wrestling, haven you were in. I was with the old mud stompers and gouge your eyes and have a
I was
whiskey
with
and
some
get on the
pretty good
jet.
mud stompers too. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we
We're
really
coming
drove.
home. We were coming home from Duluth, Minnesota one night. It's only about 135 miles. And it was Flair and I, and ahead of us was Murdoch and Rhodes.
Oh my gosh.
And they pulled over, we stopped and everybody, they had a case of beer for us and for them and the way we were going. And we weren't probably maybe 40, 50 miles down the road and they pulled over. So we pulled over to get out to relieve ourselves. And Murdoch jumps out and he fires his pistol over our heads. And all we saw was the flame come out and the bang. And we were still taking a leak. We both hit the ground. And that's when I get up. Dusty shot another one over us and down we went again and they took off.
What the jobs?
Christ almighty. Our hearts were going like that.
They're
just living their gimmick. They were outlaws.
They were.
Oh, they
That's
were.
exactly what research guy Andy says. Texas Outlaws, daddy. It's great stuff. Holy smokes. Greg, who was your wheelman typically on the road? Did you ride with somebody in particular?
No, it was usually Jim and I, and maybe if there was a rookie going with us, that just got out of the camp or something. The Iron Sheik. Okay.
Oh my God!
Did I tell you the trip he had with us and Dusty and Murdoch in front of us to Minot, North Dakota?
Can't remember. Go ahead, because
they put him in the back of the truck or something and make him ride where it was cold.
Yeah, well, we pulled. To Minot from Minneapolis was 525 miles, and it's I don't know, it's January, and it's 25, 30 below zero, and Murdoch and Rhodes are in front of us, and we're just rookies. Brunzell, myself, Ken Patera was driving his car. We were riding with him and Cosro. And Bob Bruggers must have been in the car because it was pretty packed in the back. So they made a stop, maybe 200 miles up, 250 miles up. We still got another 250 to go. And gosh, we got this little jacket on and he's complaining about riding. So Dusty and Murdoch say, well, get in with us. So he gets out of the car and they're in a pickup truck. And they throw him in the back end of the pickup truck, and he's got this little jacket on and they take off going 80, 90 miles an hour and he's hitting on the window. And when they'd hit the window, they'd slam the brakes on it. He'd hit the window, then they'd hit the gas and he'd roll back into the back. And they did that to him all the way up to Minot. We got up there and he was purple. He was so close and he's shaking like this. He says, I do not want to ride back with them. So, oh my God. That poor guy, we had a battle royal that night. Of course, Murdoch and Rhodes were in there and they woke him up pretty good, hammered him pretty good, and then fired him out. He didn't last too long in there, but he was still shaking.
Tossed him right out.
Oh my God. It's like he didn't die.
Oh my gosh. Jeez. Well, did you ever ride with Mad Dog Sean or anything like that on the road?
Yeah. No.
I bet that's pretty fortunate.
We made we had an airplane ride with him. And
oh yeah.
That story. Yeah. No, he was dangerous.
I believe that. I believe
TA,
that.
who did you travel with in a lot? You didn't?
Mostly with Dusty.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, Dusty and I drove. We lived like literally less than 5 minutes apart from each other. So he picked me up or I picked him up, and we would drive. If it was 80, 90 mile, 100 mile trip, we drove those. But anything else, we were getting on a plane. So it was, just you. I don't think we ever had a trip we drove that was more than 2 hours each way.
Oh,
I traveled with Murdoch quite a bit too, though. He was my buddy. Yeah, Dickie. I had that 911 turbo Porsche, and I got Dickie up front. He's got the case of beer in the back. He's reaching over getting the beers, throwing the empties down on the floor, and I go right around a state trooper unmarked car. Got the daggone, no markings on it. It did say HP on his plate, which I should have got. But I wasn't going fast, but I was going about 10 miles an hour faster. I should have went right around him. Of course, he turns the blue lights on and pulls me over. Said, "Man," he said, "didn't you see?" He shines his lights in the car, and there's probably 20 beer cans on the floor. And I pointed at Dickie. I said, "Well, he drank most of them." And the guy, I signed a picture for the guy to give to his mom, and we were down the road. But yeah, Dickie was a lot of fun to travel with. He was, he was just always upbeat, and nobody wants to run around with a depressed guy. Dickie was always upbeat, fun to be with.
Well, I heard a story. I can't remember who it was. If I read it in Terry Funk's book or something like that, but he had like a dog or a big mastiff he had too. Do you remember that at all? Like he would have with him sometimes or take him out, and I don't know. That was one of the stories I heard about him, like having a big dog they would just feed around and everything.
Yeah, he was just quite the character. I mean, it didn't matter whether you were in a bar or you were on the road or whatever. I mean, he had quite the gift of gab with everybody, and it was very entertaining. But I didn't ever have the problems like they had up in the AWA when he was a little more settled down. And of course, Dusty was the booker, so he didn't want to get in too much trouble. Yeah. But I got a more mature version of Dickie than Greg got exposed to. But he was somebody I considered a close friend. As a matter of fact, he was the guy that I last traveled with. The night I had the wreck, him and I had gone to the town together, and we'd come back across town and somehow got split up, and he jumped in with somebody else and went to another club or something, and I ended up stopping off by where he was and giving him his bag, and he was the last guy I saw before I had the crash.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, you think it'd probably been worse if you were both in there?
It would not have been good because as violent as it was, and when him and I were riding down the road in the car, it was literally my shoulder was up against the door, other shoulder was up against his shoulder was up against the other door. There was nowhere to go. A little bitty car. Probably Dickie was probably 280, I'm 240. We had a pretty good amount of humanity in the front seat. So yeah, that wouldn't have been good.
How tall was Dickie?
He's about 6'2", 6'3".
Okay.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Wow, geez.
He could move too. God, he could move in the ring.
Oh yeah, he could move. He could throw a punch. He could fight. He could. It wasn't a whole lot he couldn't do.
Yeah.
We put him and Slater together and called them the Hardline Collection Agency.
Oh, it had to be.
WCW. And we had them in the old timey caps and like they were the money collectors for the mob.
Yeah.
It was a perfect scenario for those two. They looked like if you opened up your door and saw those two standing there, you wouldn't want to come out.
And that was what's so when you're talking about that, and you're talking about when we came through professional wrestling the way it is today, the characters that we were with and the scenarios that was really them. They weren't being, you're going to be this guy and this is going to be your name. Shit, those personalities, what you saw is what you got. And
sometimes that was good and sometimes not.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Greg, what do you think of the whole clan, the Bray Wyatt's gang reincarnated in?
Oh my God.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Greg?
That's phenomenal. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. I've run it for the last 2 weeks, and I'm waiting to see where they go with it.
That is the $64,000 question.
Yeah.
What do you do with it when you've got the bloodline feud going on over here. You got CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, amazing, going on over there. And, and then that going on. And you got Chad Gable that's a victim of these guys and nobody's going to help him. Host said, that's great, but you're on your own. Basically, so they can have a lot of fun with that if they can keep the mystery of that going, particularly as they go into their Netflix genre of production. They could do some really unique storyline stuff for that.
There's a lot of possibilities, big time. I really like how what Bo Dallas is doing. Those videotapes of him sitting with Uncle Howdy himself and talking to himself and things like that. And I thought you were talking about how like Paul Heyman should get like an Academy Award. I thought Bo Dallas was doing a really excellent job in those videotapes.
Hands down, which just shows you how underutilized he was in his previous, representation we did for the company. The guy's got all kinds of creative chops and really a deep character to kind of peel the onion back on here. And, like I said, it'll just be fun to, kind of go along with the ride. And I want to see what happens when Charlotte gets back, when Rhea Ripley gets back, when, all these, really major players that are, stepped outside the box right now that aren't in the game, where they're going to go with Damian Priest. Is he going to step out and, be a super single, deal, kind of stand up on his own? I mean, he could very well turn babyface out of all this.
Yeah, he really could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree with you. And I think that would be probably the right move for him at this juncture. I think if, it seems like they're creating a lot of mystery of what could happen at Money in the Bank, whether it's Seth Rollins or Damian Priest coming out on top. But it seems like they're kind of setting up for maybe us seeing Seth Rollins taking on Gunther and then the Judgment Day crumbling apart with Damian Priest getting a big babyface push. Maybe that's kind of where I see maybe it's going. But I'm not sure. They've created a lot of intrigue for me, though. I was very invested into Raw on Monday. I'll say that much for sure.
Yeah, no, me as well. And I'm still not buying the whole Ricochet's gone deal. I'm just watching and people's contracts running up, all that stuff. There's just too many subtle things going on in the background that are very quiet, that make me think, wait, let's just wait and see.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What do you got there? Do you have something on your chin?
Oh no, I was just tapping, like thinking.
Oh, I thought. Oh, you're thinking.
That's my thinking motion.
Oh, okay. I'd have to know these things.
I'm giving you hand signals, Greg.
Yeah, I got that one. It's usually the other finger, though.
Usually it's the other one, though. Well, so you guys think this Wyatt 6 stuff? Do you think it will work? Obviously, I think they're not going to supernatural too much. They're playing into it, but I don't think they're going a supernatural route. It's almost like a cult, it feels like, that's going on, or that they're kind of setting up for that. And I think they're peeling back the page of like, hey, they're not going to play these characters. They're going to be who they are, but behind these masks. And I think we're going to get an association and a relationship with these the guys and Nikki Cross, I think, moving forward. Greg, do you think this can work? Do you see this working long term?
Well, the way they're building it, I think it will. Mm-hmm. As long as you keep that storyline going the way it's going, the more they give, the way they're giving it to me, I think is great. And the longer it goes that way, just keeping everybody on their edge. What's going to happen with this thing? When's it going to explode? And when it does, it's going to be phenomenal. I mean, that kid he can really talk. He can really do it. He did a great delivery.
Yeah, he really
did. Very believable.
Very believable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think what they might do too, and from what I hear, it seems like they're setting up too. Maybe we'll get more tapes and more interviews, but with the other names in the group. And that's a way they can kind of slow roll it out, what you're talking about too, Greg, which would be very
if they can do a good interview.
If they do it, yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. I mean, if that group can all do a good interview, they can carry that a long way.
Yeah,
that's what you have to watch for.
It all needs to work in tandem for all that to happen. Guys, if you have questions, feel free to use the super chat. Get you to the front of the line. Also, be sure to like, share, subscribe, whether you're on 4horsemanetwork.com or you're on onetruesport.com watching live. Obviously, it helps, and it helps us out here too. Let us address a couple questions here. Eddie Prather has a good one. Greg and Magnum, any good stories involving the working relationship between the AWA and NWA? I believe it was 1985 when the NWA and AWA did shows together. Greg, you remember that coming together? And how about you too, Magnum? We'll talk about Super Clash in depth at some point.
Go ahead, TA. You start that one.
Well, all I knew was it was, for me, it was just a very cool, iconic place to get a chance to go to Comiskey Park.
Yeah.
And headline there, because I was all about the history and those marquees that it had so many amazing things happen there. So when Jimmy presented the opportunity that they wanted Rick and I to come out and have a bout for the world title, I was just excited in general. The outdoor thing is always fun, but when you talk about the magic of performing on that kind of stage with that many people, I got to do that a few different times in my career, and really that's the only joint AWA besides the things we did in the Meadowlands. We did some things in the Meadowlands too, right, Greg?
Yeah,
we had a combination of our talent, but that was certainly the biggest, and it was memorable. And like the last time I saw Kerry Von Erich alive, it was there's a picture somewhere on the cover of he and I together at that event. So it was very cool.
That was a great event, and I wish we could have got together a little bit more, worked a little bit better. But like I told you, what happened in Chicago with the Crockett's were down there trying to sign our people to contracts,
Right.
And
great goodwill.
Well, when you look back at it, everybody had their own thoughts on how they wanted to compete against McMahon. If the NWA and AWA could have kept it together, with the territories and the cities that we were really established in, from Winnipeg to St. Louis to the West Coast, we could have really, the two groups could have really given them a run, and I think we'd have dominated. I remember when New York went into Denver the first time.
Mm-hmm.
They did well. I mean, they sold the building out, but the response about the matches is what was really, it was a different style.
Mm-hmm.
When we had Paymer Morales, put him in, he never made it past the third match on the card.
And he was their
because
champ.
in New York, the style back then was, just kicking and punching basically.
Yeah, Bruno did that stuff.
And the AWA and the NWA, you had to wrestle. You had to be able to get yourself in and out of holds and tell that story. And that's what the people, in the AWA were used to, and the NWA. And if we could have just kept that together with all the talent that we had between the two groups, it would have taken McMahon a lot longer to do what he did.
Do you think you guys
may not even been able to do it if we'd have kept it together?
Do you think you got? This is a question for both of you guys too, and so I want both your takes. Do you think if there was collaboration, one kind of mindset with everybody involved in this, and you put your heads together and got everything together, do you think it could have worked and it could have been a viable competitor moving forward on a mainstream wrestling product during that time? Greg, do you agree with that? Do you think that's a
fair I do. I think, we'd have probably, if they would have sat down and let Dusty book it for both groups, we had, in our booking session was Bockwinkel, Bobby Heenan, Blackjack Lanza, and myself, Ray Stevens. Wahoo was in there with us later on.
Mm-hmm.
But if Dusty would have, and their bookers would have joined with our guys, I think we'd have put together some really great stuff that would have made it much, much harder for McMahon to get done what he got done.
Yeah.
But once they started falling apart, it just made it easy for him.
Right.
and just kept grabbing the talent. And, if we could have locked up the talent better, we couldn't in AWA. I mean, he hit us really hard.
Divide and conquer kind of thing.
Well, that was kind of the deal. I mean, Hogan was there, and he'd come to us because he was failing in New York. He wasn't getting over in New York, the way he was. But, with the talent we had and everybody working with him and teaching him, he was the monster that McMahon needed to make it work.
Right. Magnum, do you have a similar take on that, or do you have a different perspective about,
I would have had the same perspective back in the middle of it, but understanding the growth that it took to make wrestling and sports entertainment the global phenomenon that it became, the similarities we shared with the AWA, that we had the same thought process and commitment to the heritage and the storytelling and the grit of portraying these athletic contests and all these things. That would have made us good comrades, but it would have also continued to pigeonhole us into that one same lane that we couldn't expand out of. Because the worldwide popularity that it gained was because of the very thing that none of us embraced, because we were, determined to, portray it as a shoot in an athletic contest and wrestling, that the global thing that was 100,000 times bigger than the universe we were operating in was still, we weren't able to think out the box, because we were so defensive that our position was right and this is the way it should be done and this is what, by God, wrestling fans want to see. We didn't know that there was a whole plethora of people bigger than we could ever imagine that would embrace coming, in droves, in the hundreds of thousands annually, to watch something that was a completely different flavor than we were interested in portraying. We used to have team meetings like we were a football team with Dusty, and the whole thing was always about having a marketably different product, because just like Vern embraced this heritage and this thing, so did we, and we were dogged about it. I mean, going to fight somebody over kayfabe back in the day. It was like, we came from the Eddie Graham, Bill Watts, Vern Gagne school of protecting the business, and it was too one-dimensional to expand and become a multi-billion-dollar business, that it went on to become. It couldn't have continued to grow that way, nor would it, even if Vince hadn't been the one to pull the curtain back, just like he did. Just time and progress, and as communications happen, if we'd have kept it going long enough for these cell phones to become a thing, when people could have compared the finishes from one town to the next, and scandal sheets and kayfabe sheets weren't the deal real time. They could say, man, look, that's the exact same spot they did over here, 300 miles over there. And you guys have been telling us this, and man, we'd have been the real heels before it was all over with.
Yeah.
We're falling on the sword over this, this thing that we're like in a blood fraternity, literally, over to protect. So, I see it a little differently now. Back then, I was like sergeant at arms, and I'd have gone out there and gone toe to toe with anybody to protect it, and particularly, against what we considered the foe, which was the WWE. We just should have learned. We should have stepped back and learned a little bit of what was going on, even with the things we didn't agree with. The fact that he was branching out and getting mainstream, people from the other entertainment industries, giving them cues on how to do this and how to do that, how to build their brand differently. We could have learned a lot rather than just putting our head down and go full steam ahead. Y'all may be cute and la la la, but at the end of the day, we're going to kick your ass. And that was kind of the mentality that it was, and it didn't work out too well at the end.
Didn't work out, no. You know, in the WWE, they've got their product is unbelievable. You know, I mean, it's a great product representing the sport the way they do. You know, and it's worldwide. I mean, God, they're going over to these, you know, Ireland and Scotland and everywhere else and selling out.
Berlin, Paris.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic.
It is.
They've all done a good job, and you have to give the credit where credit's due. And then they built the industry the way everybody wanted it to be built. Just we didn't have, I guess, the right mojo to do it.
Well, we couldn't combine enough people's thoughts together because we did have all the territories. We had people trying to protect their own backyard and their promotion and their livelihoods. I mean, I used to laugh when I said, man, you know, like Gerald Briscoe's going to colleges and looking at track and field stars and this, you know, all these different athletes from these different things. And I'm thinking to myself, how are they going to teach them to do this craft? And then I look at, you know, Bianca Belair and I just shut my mouth and said, man, that girl can stinking work like as good as any man and completely diversified and athletic to the tens. So if you find a super athlete that's coachable, then guess what? You can teach them how to do this. Yeah. And she's living proof.
Yeah. She absolutely
is. My thoughts on how to go through the trenches and, you know, go on baloney blowouts and live on air for, you know, how many years, you know, driving from town to town. And, you know, that's
you
how
didn't drive, you flew.
You flew.
Yeah.
You started
from town to town.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that was a season, but man, you know, these kids today, you know, they come out with skill sets that don't involve having to discern a bunch of other people's bad habits to figure out what's the right way or wrong way, whatever, you know, every way to do it. And, you know, and they're not doing a bunch of honky stuff. I mean, you got, you know, Randy Orton is arguably his work is as solid and credible as anybody that has ever been in the history of the business. Yeah. And he's still out there in this mainstream deal, working with these kids that have come up through this system, and they're all out there tearing the house down together. So they have overcome all the things that I thought they would kill when they killed the territories. They've circumnavigated that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to follow up kind of what both you kind of brought up. Greg, you kind of said, like, if they gave Dusty the pencil to kind of handle everything and things like that. And then Magnum, on a previous episode when we talked about Dusty Rhodes in a little bit more in depth, you kind of mentioned how, you know, he was had that kind of association like Muhammad Ali and those big picture ideas and kind of things like that. And so from me, who didn't grow up, who was just being born in that era, like I was not even aware of wrestling at that juncture. But did Dusty kind of have that same mindset of like, let's bring in stars, let's bring in mainstream thing? Or was he more of that kind of, hey, keep your nose at the grindstone and let's keep doing what we're doing kind of thing? What was Dusty's head at that juncture for that kind of time period?
Well, before I crashed, it was, you know, we were building our own team. Mm-hmm. And everybody, we had it pretty laid out what we were going, what we were doing, where it was going to go. And they would have continued to sprinkle and bring people in. I mean, you know, you could get guys to come in still back then and do a run and, you know, do a 6 months or a year program. And they would be able to go to the AWA or go to Florida or go somewhere, you know, after they got, you know, through that whole deal. But as we got to be so global and coast to coastish, and then, you know, the talent wanted to have a full-time home, you know, and base there. You know, one time there was 200 wrestlers living in Charlotte, North Carolina, before there was pro football here. We were the biggest franchise in Charlotte, mm-hmm. And you know, it kind of messes you up to a degree, because even though we were deep enough that we could run 3 towns in a night and sell 3 towns in a night out. I mean, we could be a 20,000 square foot build. I mean, a seating capacity building, a 10,000 and a 3,000 seat, you know, high school, and selling them all out and doing capacity business. But that's a lot to rotate. That's a lot of things. Even with JJ was right there at his hip, keeping the books and keeping records of who was where, when. And I mean, he was like the glue that kept the thing together on the backside. But the more you keep growing that roster, it's a monster to try to keep everybody kind of in a good place. I mean, we were to the point, literally, the opening match could have been a main event match in a town with with them on the card somewhere else. There was no curtain jerker matches. Period. It was main event talent from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And when your deck's stacked that heavy, it's a great ride. But they obviously, again, couldn't take it to that next level. If they could have brought the outside marketing and all the opportunities and things that could have come along, and got Flair and I on the Tonight Show and the this and that and the other, and cross marketed all those things with that many people, that in and of itself would have made the WWE have a real run for their money. But it would have taken somebody probably like Vern and Jimmy and Dusty to combine their influences, because AWA was so strong out west and in California and Colorado. And though we went to those places, Superstation was strong, but if you then had combined that audience all together and given them amazing products with stories that you could come back and follow in the arena. Back then we programmed the arenas. I mean, Greg will tell you, you'd go and you do some kind of screwed up finish in an arena, and then come back and go 2 out of 3 falls, and then come back and go in a cage, and then whatever you could get it easily 2-3 months out of a little program. Big programs went 6 to 8 months, and then some. So I think, again, combining everybody's strengths could have made it a little bit different. But I don't know how you get out of that, kind of that mom and pop, way of doing it, because it was a family business, for the Gagnes, and they had partners in different places in the country, but it's still a tight knit kind of thing. And Crockett's had the minor league ball club, and they had the brothers and sisters working in the organization, and everybody was kind of keeping it a little too close to the cuff, where they should have said, hey, let's get some consulting in here and let somebody look at what we're doing and tell us how to maximize this. I wish I had the business savvy and sense at 27 years old that the years have afforded me, because I could easily see now how we could have navigated the thing completely different, and TBS would have never even been in the equation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You would have been your own Ted Turner, Magnum.
I would have been something. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Vern, he was really into tying in our wrestling with celebrities.
Yeah.
And he learned that. He learned that back in the 50s.
Okay, yeah.
He did the Jack LaLanne show and the Tonight Show and Steve Allen, and he did all those. And his buddies, Don Rickles, he'd bring him on our TV show once in a while, and Ed Asner, and he always tried to tie in the celebrities with the wrestling. Not to the extent that the WWE has, but he used them to help build our product and build the legitimacy of the product. Mm-hmm. And and it was, so he had that feel for it, and always tried to tie it in, and locally, and even in Minneapolis. I mean, the news people, everybody, Christ, we had a 24 rating with a 64 share of the audience, and that was in most of our markets. It was in the 20s.
Yeah.
So, and he tied in with Mickey Mantle and the New York Yankees when he was there. And when they came to Minneapolis, when the Twins started, he took me down, and I was probably maybe 9 years old, maybe 10. And Mickey Mantle was my idol. Yeah. And we walked into the Yankee locker room, and Whitey Ford and Mantle and Roger Maris and Tony Kubek, they all come running up to Vern. I mean, he was like their hero. And that's when I think that's the first time I realized what my father meant to the sport of professional wrestling and to the industry all over. He was into that.
And it speaks to how much professional wrestling means to everybody, and how it reaches across. It's pretty it's a universal affection for it a lot of the time.
It is. well, when Crockett's had theirs and we had ours, Eddie Graham had ours, in those areas, that's all people thought of, and that's all they saw.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody there was their hero or their villain. And that's the way wrestling, operated. And you really have to give, I give McMahon and the WWE all the credit in the world. They brought this thing up to, something that nobody from our era, or the promoters in that area, or the guys, the Crockett's, the Gagnes, the Eddie Grahams, the Funks, they couldn't see that.
Yeah.
They wanted it, but didn't know how to do it.
Man, yeah, it's a different time period too. It's just like as much as people love wrestling, there was a certain perception about wrestling too at certain junctures too. And what McMahon did make it mainstream, incorporated like the music scene, celebrities at the time, everything like that. And then what you guys are saying, like I think Greg, you mentioned how big of a platform WWE was, and they're being in the New York market. It's a big market, and then just expanding out like that and making it.
Well, let's talk about the money for a minute. I read something online, so it must be true, about AEW's annual payroll for the wrestling company.
Yeah.
And it was something, I don't know if you saw it too, but it was something like staggering.
It was a lot. Producer Robert, do you know? I don't know why I'm covering my mouth, but if you know the number, give it.
I saw a number, and I'd like Robert to substantiate it because I don't even want to verbalize it, because it was 10 times greater than WCW's payroll in 1990 or 89 when I was still with the talent group there, which I thought was staggering back then. And this was before, the WCW thing and the Monday Night Wars and Hogan and all those guys coming on, which even escalated even higher. But their payroll was like $9 million a year when I was part of that deal. And just a few years earlier, like in 1986, we had done like 27 million in paid arena attendance with the Crockett's, which was huge money, 27 million. And of course, then pay-per-view came along and they did $35 million in one night, with a huge pay-per-view of WrestleMania or something. Go back at the time when everything like spun and turned and changed. But I'm wanting to say it is something maybe 10 times north of that's being spent out for overall the overall picture of what AEW does now. And
Robert got it for us. This is from Dave Meltzer. He does preface this by saying, grain of salt, maybe the whole shaker. Mike Mansuri filed forms for tax credits in Nevada, listed the expresses for the TV taping and Double or Nothing pay-per-view show on May 24th and 25th. The key number was $2 million in salary, which would include talent and other workers. Since talent is paid based on annual contracts, this would indicate that the total talent number to be in the range of $104 million per year, which is very high. Someone familiar
that's a number I heard. Yep.
Was that it? Yep. $104 million.
What do you think the WWE says?
That's a really good question. I think they're a little bit more tightened up. I would almost think, but
I heard Roman was going to have the highest salary of any employee in history when he comes back. That his deal was going to be bigger than Brock's, and Brock's was $10 million. So, I know that they've got a more structured system. I think they advertise that their starting rate was like 250 or 350 or something like that, like the lowest man on the totem pole.
That's
kind of deal. But to $100 million and ratings that are, not, setting the universe on fire. And I don't know what their pay-per-view buy rates are like or any of that, but that's got to be a labor of love, because it's certainly not building your 401k
No, not doing that. Robert does add, there's no effing way it's real. He says so.
Well, when you hear some of those numbers of you start doing the math and the number of people and
It's a lot of people on that roster.
yeah, it's a lot of folks, and even the grips and all the army of people it takes to come to do live television. Greg knows he's been part of it, and I have too. It takes an army, a whole army, a city comes in and sets that up. So, what it costs per week
Per week.
Wow.
just boggles my mind. I had to blow up 3 calculators to try to figure all that out. I couldn't afford to pay for the catering.
When you think of the cost of one TV program, and what do they have, 3 going at a time now? 3 going?
Yeah, they have 3. So they have Dynamite.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With the crew, the trucks, and I worked there, and I was in awe of putting a show together. It's unbelievable. And they go into these big arenas, and they're packing them in like crazy, which is great for them. But
the WWE's packing them in like
WWE.
Yeah, the WWE.
Yeah. You need to
we're talking about AEW. No, I don't
Yeah,
know.
we're talking about AEW right now. It's a little different story.
Can they hang on?
I think Tony Khan made mention in an interview about how a lot of TV networks would kill for their key demographic that they get from a number standpoint. And that seems to make sense. So I think as long as they get a TV deal, they're A-okay. But it's like to what Magnum's saying too, it's like seems like more of a labor of love than it is like with the business mindset of it all. Like, hey, let's make some money and let's grow this.
I think at the end of the day, if they said, okay, well, we only lost X a year, then you just figure out, what you paid to do this thing you're passionate about and you love, and oh, by the way, at the same time, making a amazing living for a lot of people that otherwise would be, eating beanie weenies and working at the gas station to try to make a buck. As frustrated as I can get with it. I wish he had 500 people working for him, because spread it out, make as many, make as many people money as they can. I don't know if at the heyday of before, when the territories were all in full blossom, how many wrestlers do you think there were back in the mid 80s, Greg, making a living in all the territories?
Oh my God, making a living?
Yeah.
Working full-time guys.
Working full-time. Like, what, 35-40% of them?
Yeah, but how many people? I'm talking about how many people were making a living as a professional wrestler.
How many wrestlers were there back then?
Well, that's
I would say maybe 30% of them were making a great living.
You're still missing my question. I want to know how many bodies were making a living, working full time in all the territories. Was there 500? Was there 1,000? Was there 2,000? No, because most territories didn't have more than 30 people in it.
That's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You had more than anybody.
But that's when we had run everybody out of business.
Yeah.
So even at that, we
only ran with 18, 20 guys.
Wow. Right. So I bet you today it's not a terribly between the AEW and and WWE's whole program, counting NXT and people they've got training in the training center. It might actually be as many or more people that are actually making significant money out of it today than there were back during the quote unquote golden age.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a really great point that, I would have just in my head, not being alive in that era, or for the most part, It'd be like, oh, everybody's kind of making a living and doing what they're doing, but to an extent, there's only a select few people that are really making their hay.
There weren't that many people on a card, and you were running one show a night, and you had Portland, had California, had AWA, Kansas City, had what was going on, of course, in Dallas. We got Memphis, and if you added them all up together, I bet you it's not a significant difference.
Yeah.
So it's just the path is different, and it's much more difficult to crack the code to get in. It's become more professionalism in that regards because they have a certain expectation. They want to see you physically before you even get an opportunity to show your chops. And coming from the indies today might just mean you bring a whole bunch of bad garbage and bad habits with you and make you a liability where you might go out there and break your neck or hurt somebody else in the process of performing.
Right. It's a great point. That's a really great point, man. Geez, you are the boss. Holy smoke. Sure. Holy cats. Hey, Liam.
Straight talk.
Liam Evans. Happy 1 month anniversary, by the way, to Liam Evans. And it's 1 month anniversary of One True Sport. He happens. And I think he might have been at least definitely one of our first members. So happy anniversary, Liam. Happy anniversary. But he's got a good question here. Greg, out of some of the top guys in wrestling at the moment, whether they're in WWE, AEW, or TNA, who would you think stand out to your father if he was still here to witness wrestling today?
Oh man, they got a lot of them.
Yeah, who do you think Vern be infatuated with from a wrestling stand or wrestling?
Oh character? Well, of course, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah,
Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
he liked the guys that had the background in athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was wrestling or football, basically those two sports, because they were good athletes and could adapt to, the whole situation. So there's so many great athletes now in the sport. I watched that match. I finished watching that match. I watched that McIntyre and Sheamus.
And then Ilya Dragunov too. And
Mm-hmm.
It's a great that guy is a pit bull, man.
Isn't he?
I'm a big fan of his. I had no idea.
Dragunov?
Dragunov is like when he focuses and he's going to go into attack, he would go fight a flipping buzzsaw. He doesn't matter what size he is, and he's so intense and so believable. I go back to him in Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker, he's gonna kill everybody on the roster, and no, not Dragunov. No. You better bring some and pack a sandwich and a lunch and everything else because I'm not going down with that. You were in a fight.
When I saw they put him in there with Sheamus and McIntyre, I said, "Wow, that kid, he's going to have a tough time in there." He was great. He was great. Yeah.
They work with him really, really well. I'll say Sheamus is a consummate professional and has really shown what a veteran he is because he kind of been out of the scene for a little bit. But he made that kid for sure. But he gave him the whole plate to play with. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Oh my God! The only exception I take, and I want to get your guys' take on this too.
Did you get a haircut?
Oh yeah, I get a haircut. I'm my own barber, which is nice. But
your girlfriend just walked in too.
Oh, did she tell her?
Yeah, Laura's back. She said to say hi.
Hey. Well, so the only
keep the hat on.
I take with the match is I love Dragunov's finisher, the H-bomb, where he goes and punches the guy while he's on the ground. He let Drew kick out of it. He's let Jey Uso kick out of it. I want somebody to stay down from that because that's such a devastating finisher move. And that's the one thing I was like, dang it, I wish he wouldn't do that. But I love Dragunov. I think he's fantastic.
Well, I think he gave it up a little because of the size difference because he's basically in there, with a monster. And, you got to, drop a kitchen sink on top of the monster besides your normal, Herculean punch. But, I kind of agree with you. If you're whatever your deal is, if it's that punch, I never used my finish for a high spot ever.
Right.
Not one time in my career. And, you kind of got to have something to make your own. So you got to, those are tricky things to kind of navigate around.
Yeah.
That shouldn't just be a pop or a ooh, or, that should be it. Okay. It's over.
It's over. I know.
I'm with you on that one.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to some of our members too. Darren Staley popped in. He's a busy man, slammed at work, trying to wrap up the holiday week. Just wanted to pop in and say hi to y'all. I listened to the full episode afterwards. Thanks, Darren. Also, Robert, our producer, had some pretty good questions I wanted to touch upon real quick before we wrap up. Looks like we're not getting Andre today, by the way.
From Robert, all I see is know something way it's real.
Yeah, we can't say that one on. We could if we wanted to.
No, I'm not. No, I've been getting my butt chewed out about that. I get carried away sometimes, and you guys get on me. Laura gets on me. My kids get on me.
Here's a question for you guys. And maybe Magna might know. I don't know. But with the Wyatt Six, obviously the late Wyndham Rotunda, Bray Wyatt, and now Bo Dallas, that tie into horror movies, anything like that. Do you know if Blackjack Wyndham or Mike Rotunda ever exhibited any interest in the horror genre? Was that like a thing that was generational, or do you think they pulled from somewhere else, Bray and Bo Dallas?
I think I don't really have any insight to speak to that, really, to even know. Mm-hmm. They're leaning in hard, obviously, on this really unique thing. That, can you imagine had they been doing this 15 years ago when the Undertaker was at his peak? It's just it's like I said, I hope they keep the mystique going, because it's great television, it's great entertainment. But to answer your question, no, I don't know what the tie is there with that at all.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if they did have somebody. If we ever get Mike Rotunda on here, or Barry Windham on for an interview or anything like that, I'll have to ask them that, see if they had any.
Maybe one of these days we'll talk about Andre the Giant too.
Maybe one of these days. Maybe.
But we might want to talk about this little thing that launched.
Yeah.
This kind of cool thing.
It's
like cool. The Talk of the Town Ultra Series 2.
Absolutely.
It just launched.
Yes.
And it's kind of got the world, kind of buzzing around a little bit. Wahoo McDaniels and Dory Funk Jr. and Kamala and Jack Briscoe, JYD, Medusa, they are literally kicking ass and taking names right now.
Look at those figures. Holy smokes.
Those are the best figures on the market.
Man, look at here. Let's see if we can get up. Look at that. What a crew there. Junkyard Dog. Wahoo's, that's my favorite, is Wahoo, I think. Jack Briscoe, Kamala, and then Dory Funk Jr. Man, Medusa looks great too. She was the last addition, or the one that we last reveal, I guess, before.
We kind of milked that out a little bit. First woman in the Ultra Series, and of course she's kind of the first woman to do a whole lot of things in the world of wrestling. So it was very apropos for her to be the last one introduced.
So amazing looking. Guys, you can go to PowerTownWrestling.com right now. Check them out. You can get the full bundle there, you see, for $289.99, or you can get them each for $49.99. Pre-order them and make sure you get them ahead of time. Obviously, I have my own here. I got the Kerry Von Erich Diamond Collection, which is an awesome looking figure, and right in time it was for the Iron Claw. So love Kerry Von Erich and love the figure here. So guys, you can pick up your own Ultra Series there. Go to PowerTownWrestling.com. Such cool stuff. There's more planned ahead, as Magnum has revealed beforehand. But Greg can't reveal too much, just so you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're fantastic. And you know what? The word's finally getting out of what a kind of a product we have. Mm-hmm. And people that want them, they better get on board right away.
100%. You better get on.
They're great figures. I opened that box today and just looked at even that first run. I mean, God, those are so. When I talked to Barb Goodish and Stan Hansen, I mean, he flipped out over it.
Yeah.
He said, "When am I getting more? When am I getting?" And I said, well, it was pre-sales. Well, I'm waiting for another check.
I'm waiting for another check. When's it coming in?
And Barb Goodish and Charlie Thez, they're going to be in Waterloo for the Hall of Fame, and we're going to bring those action figures down, and we're going to move them down there.
Move them and shake them down there.
Move them and shake them.
I wish I'm having FOMO, fear of missing out, because I'm not going to be there. But my brother Marcus looks like he's going to be there.
Are we going to do a podcast from there?
Yeah. So I think Marcus might do the hot tag and tag in for me and do some stuff. That's what I'm kind of hoping, is that we can get him on.
So Magnum will be on it too. We'll have us set up.
Yeah, good. We can definitely get something set up. I'm excited for you, Greg. You deserve it. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it and seeing all those great people down there, and all those great athletes. And I've been working on the speech. I've got my notes. I think I'm ready. But then they called me and they said they want me to do an introduction to Tom Pritchard.
Because of the training, I heard they're
having a new award at the Greg Gagne Training Award.
How about that?
So nice. Talk about the training that we went through and how it was set. What Vern did. And all that, and pass the torch.
That's fantastic, man.
Very cool.
I'm very excited for you guys.
I am too.
Should be
Laura's excited to sell the figures. She's got her outfits picked out, and she's going to be out there on that table pushing them hard. So get her some T-shirts. I got her the action figures, and
gotta give
we'll go to work.
Heck yeah! Speaking of the T-shirts, guys, you can go to onetruesport.com right now. And you can scoop up some new Greg Gagne merchandise. You can scoop up some new Magnum TA merchandise. And they are quite handsome material, let's just say. I'll show them to you guys real quick. We got Magnum TA right here. A lot of good selections. We got a podcast tank top. We got the new Magnum TA American Heartthrob tank top that you can check out. And then we also have, of course, the facilitator himself, Mr. Greg Gagne. We have a lot of the new Greg Gagne, Heart of a Champion.
Good on there.
So it's some good quality stuff. Be sure to check it out. Go to onetruesport.com and scoop up yours today. Look at that tee. That looks badass. So heck yeah. So take a look, guys. Head there. And guys, if you like what you're seeing here on One True Sport, be sure to like, subscribe on the channel, get the word out, spread the word on social media if you have it. If you want to join and be a member, hit that join button down below. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe on the FullHorsemanNetwork.com. It's a cool community we got growing here. We would just want to keep things rolling and make things start happening and make this a big deal. I've been telling people that I want to make this kind of like the ESPN of the early 2000s for pro wrestling. Like ESPN was so great back then. You had so many great personalities and everything like that. I want to kind of make it something like that. So that's the hope. We'll see how it goes. But we thank you all for joining in here live.
I want to get one quick thing in there.
Go for it, Greg.
TA has done a phenomenal job with PowerTown.
Absolutely.
He's doing the business end of it, and I can't thank him enough for everything the hours he puts in. And he makes sure that everything's done properly and looks the way it looks and all realistic, and he's terrific. Couldn't have a better partner.
PowerTownWrestling.com. Magnum TA. He's the pro and he's the boss. And you can follow him on Twitter at the real Magnum TA.
I'm the straight talk. He's the boss.
That's it. You're the straight talk.
I give no bullshit.
You follow Magnum at Magnum_TA on Instagram. Follow Greg, who's got a great Instagram at Gagne.Greg. And follow me if you want on X at Dominic D'Angelo if you want. So there you go, guys. What a show. What an episode. No Andre again this week, but maybe next week.
TA, you up for next week, Andre?
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes. All right, guys. We'll see you next time here on Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA and Greg Gagne.